following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
What is up, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Fantasy Fridays. It's me, Kelsey. I'm bringing it back this week. Today is all about those guys out wide, the guys that make the money, the prima donnas. Well, and I'm not talking about Travis Kelce. He'll get his own segment later on. We're talking wide receivers today, and I'm going to do something a little different than normal. I normally pick one. Well, like most fantasy teams, I'm picking two guys today, both flops and fans to players to look out for. But I still only have one gut check player to watch this season. And you know what? Let's just get right into it. I'm going to start right here with the wide receiver flops. These guys are guys that maybe teams are big on. Maybe these guys have had a good performance last year. Will they repeat it this year? A lot of guys have some positive hopes for them, and I'm just looking at them. No, there's no way. One I'm going to start out with is down in Arizona. It's Marquise Brown, wide receiver last year, ranked 47th, 89 total points, 709 yards, 3 touchdowns. But through the first 6 games, he was a top 10 receiver in the league. But I don't see that projection happening this year. This year, he's projected as a 19th overall wide receiver. I don't get that one by any means. He is 2 touchdown dependent. He has no Kyler at quarterback. And again, who's throwing him the ball? Do I have to say it again? Who's coach? Like, this team is not made out to win right now. Arizona is 100% in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. That means all positions on this team, look out for it. Unless you got James Conner on your team, and that's the only chance you have of getting some positive yards right now. I might be wrong. This team might surprise me. But right now I have a lot of questions about who's throwing the ball. Marquise Brown also has this whole issue with the speeding ticket going on. Will he get suspended for any games because he was going 126 on a way to football practice? We'll have to wait and see. All reports in the video that came out, very cooperative, but that is a concern as well when it comes to drafting your teams. So Marquise Brown, my first wide receiver flop. Avoid him if you can at all. Try to get somebody else, maybe even one of the guys I'm a fan of coming up a little bit later on. But that's going to take me right to number 2 on the wide receiver flops. Go Christian Watson. Again, a new quarterback is going to be throwing this guy the ball. Jordan Love, yes, he's been in the league for a few years, but he is still a new starting quarterback. Let's not kid ourselves in thinking that you can just walk in. Not everybody's Aaron Rodgers. They cannot just walk into the league and perform. It doesn't work that well. Also, far, far too touchdown dependent. Last season, when he does not score a touchdown, the guy didn't score over 10 points. So that means outside of 5 weeks in the season, the man scored under 10 points. In those 5 weeks, well, it was boom. So very much a boomer bust situation here. Plus, also, you have to worry about the combination of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. You're going to have running backs taking easy touchdowns inside the 20. That takes away a lot of red zone touches from Christian Watson. You're going to be relying on that yak that he had a great season on last year. But guess what? There's tape out there now. Did finish last season 24th, 123.1 total points, 611 yards, 7 touchdowns. Not bad for a rookie guy. But this year, he's again projected at the 24 mark, which is concerning considering he's supposed to be this number 1 target. But so many people seem to be high on Jordan Love that Christian Watson is getting a lot of this love as well. Getting drafted far, far too high, in my opinion. This is a guy that really, don't even touch it. Yeah, do not put this guy in your team. Don't waste that opportunity to potentially go get somebody more impactful. Don't waste that opportunity to go get somebody more impactful for your squad. So that'll do it for wide receiver flops. That's going to take us into the guys. Well, that's right. I'm a fan of these guys. These are the wide receivers I'm a fan of. And again, just like wide receiver flops, I'm going with 2 guys. And I'm going to start out with one that probably is not going to surprise very many people. His name's Amon-Ra St. Brown, named after an Egyptian god. It just so happens to be he is just as excellent as that god was portrayed to be. Last season, ranked 9th overall for a receiver, 161.6 total points, 1,161 receiving yards, and 6 touchdowns. Would like to see a little bit higher touchdown ratio for him this year, but that's going to be possibly okay. Now, here's the thing that concerns me. I know the graphic says running back rank. Ignore that. It is wide receiver rank. He was 15th. It is projected to be 15th. How? How is a guy that is going to be the only target on his team, the number one target, and a guy who was second in target share or targets per route run last year to only Tyreek Hill? How is this guy going to be a 15th overall wide receiver? I don't get it. I don't see it. I know you're potentially playing into double teams and things like that, scheming for him. They've done that for 3 years. Amon-Ra St. Brown has dominated for 3 years. Look, I'd like to see him get more red zone targets. I don't think that's any doubt in any fantasy owner's mind. I'd like to see more red zone targets, but he's going to get them this year. There's not a lot of running game here in Detroit, and there's not going to be a lot of power running game in Detroit as well with Jamal Williams now in New Orleans. So expect to see that exceptional route running ability put onto tape. Look, he's not a top end speed guy. He's a guy that's going to beat you with his ability to cut and break and get in and out of routes, and his exceptional hands, his strong hands will rip the ball away from any 50-50 opportunities. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, a guy who I'm a big fan of. If you have a chance to get him in the first 2 rounds, go and get him on the board. Jared Goff's going to be playing for a lot this season. This Detroit Lions team is going to be playing for a lot in a division that is very winnable. Expect to see Amon-Ra St. Brown a big part of that, especially with the suspensions to his wide receiver teammates, namely Jameson Williams, who was expected to take a lot of touches away from him, but won't be on the field to see him in the first few weeks. So definitely Amon-Ra St. Brown, first guy I'm a fan of here in the wide receiver category. But that's going to take us to 2, and this guy is a new play, same face in a new place. That's DJ Moore. Last season ranked 20th. This season projected 28th. Now, mind you, DJ Moore has had 4 straight seasons with 100-plus targets and 4-plus touchdowns. Of those 4 seasons, 3 of them up until last season, he had gone over 1,000 yards. And last season, even though he didn't go over 1,000 yards, 888 yards, 7 touchdowns. Big touchdown production for him last season. And mind you, he's doing this with bottom-tier quarterbacks in his career. Justin Fields will be his first real quarterback in a long time since potentially Cam Newton to actually be a guy who there's a high upside on. So we'll get to see what he is able to do. That also, let's not forget, this team does still have Khalil Herbert. They do have a run game. They have an offensive line. They have Justin Fields' feet, so he will actually have a threat at the running back and running in general for this team. So he might not be double covered every single time. Still last season led the league was top 4 in the league in deep targets. Expect that to continue, especially with Justin Fields' arm and his DJ Moore's ability to break through defenses. And again, running young quarterback is a lot of people's question for him. Forget that. Throw that out the window. Again, projected to be 28 this season. I don't see it. I think this guy's a steal. You're going to be getting him. I believe the projection for him in most rounds is around 57, so 5th round for most leagues. And yeah, forget that. No, you happily take this man in the 5th round, especially the end of the 5th round. You will reap the benefits 100%. All it takes is a few touchdowns from this guy, and all that yardage, all those targets, especially in a PPR league, those start to rack up very, very quickly. So DJ Moore is number 2 on my wide receivers. I'm a fan of. And that's going to take us into the gut checks. Our gut check wide receiver, I had to pull down the screen for a second just so I could talk about this man. We have not seen him since 2021. In 2021, though, we're talking a top 10 receiver, arguably, maybe top 15, depending on where you played him. But he did so with a bottom-tier quarterback, a guy who was just ready to retire. And, well, hasn't retired yet. He's still in the league. I guess, well, maybe not technically. He's off a team. But, look, this guy has been an absolute stud. He's now on a new team with a young, fantastic young quarterback. That's going to be Calvin Ridley. He is my gut check wide receiver this year. A guy that you got to watch out for if you're going up against him, and if you have a chance to probably snag Calvin Ridley, go do so. Currently on the board, sitting around 40th, so 4th round is where you're going to be looking at having to draft Calvin Ridley. Some he's going down as far as the 7th round is in the 7th overall pick. So it depends on your league, depends on where you see him. But look, he was new team, new quarterback. 2021, though, still a top 10 receiver with bad quarterback play. And then comes into Jacksonville as the unquestionable number 1 target. Look, as much as Evan Ingram performed well last year, as much as you saw Christian Kirk perform well last year, Calvin Ridley's number 1. The guy just knows how to get open. He's known how to do it since his time at Bama. He just gets open and will continue to do so, almost unguardable in a lot of ways. Also, let's not forget he's one of the first guys to wear number 0, so going to make an impact on the field with that as well. Look, it's not like this guy was suspended for drug violations. It's not like this guy was suspended due to misconduct, violent misconduct. It's not like this guy was suspended for any major rule violations other than betting on games. Whether you believe that he betted on his own team or not, that's a different story. The guy, not because of health, missed a season. To me, that gives a whole season to get healthy, to get right, and to get better. And we all know Calvin Ridley, based off reports coming out of camp, has done all of the above. Looks like he's having a fantastic chemistry session here with Trevor Lawrence. They look great together in these practice games and these matchups with other teams as well. So you're going to have to wait and see what can actually be done with Calvin Ridley. But do not be surprised if Calvin Ridley ends up another top 10 season here as a receiver. Let's just not forget, last couple times we've seen him on the field, he has gone in 2020, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns. 2019, 866 yards, 7 touchdowns. 2018, his rookie year, 821 yards and 10 touchdowns. His average yards per reception every year above 10. Look, 2021 was a rough year. Injuries, everything else like that. Only played 5 games, 281 yards, average 9.1 yards per reception, and 2 touchdowns in 5 games. Most receivers, they'd be happy to get that in a season. Let's be honest. Still managed to get 31 receptions in those 5 games. And, look, his biggest reception year has been 2020 with 90. I can expect Trevor Lawrence and this high-flying offense in Jacksonville to give him a few more opportunities. So that's going to take Calvin Ridley as my gut check receiver for the 2023 season. That's going to do it for me today, guys. As always, I appreciate you tuning in to Fantasy Fridays. This day was receiver episode. Let me know what I got right. Let me know what I got wrong. Let me know what you disagree with. Let me know who your sleepers are, your gut check player is, and we can talk about it. I project getting this ready for the end of the preseason. I will have a team recap of the guys that I select for both fans and flops, and then we'll talk about it on the last episode of this preseason. Going into the season, that'll be the last week of the season, right before the first games start here. But be sure to check out our High-Low Sports broadcast every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, live here on YouTube or on Facebook and also on Twitch. Or you can catch the replay anytime you want on YouTube right here. If you like it, subscribe it. Make sure you turn on the notifications. That way you get every opportunity to know when we go live. And don't forget to check out Tier Tuesdays, where every Tuesday, DJ and myself will rank a bunch of random stats. We love our rankings. You know that if you've got any of High-Low Sports as part of our thing. Well, we love them too. But we wanted to change them up a little bit. So we started going through the tier maker, going through Tier Tuesdays. Had a lot of fun with that recently. Be sure to stay tuned for some of our new tiers coming up. Also, this weekend, we are going to be at Fantasy Football Expo 2023. So stay tuned to the social medias you see all below you. And also add one more to the list. That is at Belly Up Sports on X/Twitter. Still call it Twitter. I'm an old guy. What can I say? Also on Facebook. We will be going live on Sunday for 4 hours, I believe, with the crew from Belly Up. That is Dan Mater Fantasy Football. That is Rising to the Occasion with Josh Mahler. That is with also Chase Thornton, one of our fantasy football experts from Belly Up. And maybe you might see Mike and Blaine on there as well, along with DJ and myself. We'll be having some fun fantasy drafts. We'll be talking to some people there at the expo. Might even run into Des Bryant potentially to get him on the, get a few words from him. We'll be doing giveaways and everything in between. So be sure to stay tuned and check that out on Sunday. All you got to do is follow our social medias. We will be posting about it all weekend long. You'll see some pictures. You'll see some of the fun we get into. DJ and I are competing in fantasy or in flag football this weekend, along with the guys from Belly Up. We actually have shirts made. It's going to be a lot of fun. We get to see how out of shape we all are. So that'll be exciting. So guys, be sure to check out all of this. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. And until next week, we will see you later.